Imagine if the secret to your health, your vitality, your well-being, it wasn't something that was outside of you, but a power already within you, just waiting to be unlocked. What if you had the ability to shape your body the same way that an artist shapes a masterpiece? Welcome forward. I'm Jaden Easton, and in part 4 of our journey through Thomas Troward's Edinburgh Lectures on mental science, we're diving into something life-changing, quite literally. We're about to explore how the mind not only influences your health, but in a lot of ways creates it. This isn't just a philosophy. This is practical, tangible stuff backed by real evidence. And we'll uncover how your thoughts are essentially the master architects of your body, and how with the right awareness, you can use this knowledge to cultivate health, vitality, and strength from the inside out. Ready to discover the power within you? Let's begin. So far, we've been laying down the groundwork by digging into some pretty abstract concepts using good old metaphysical reasoning. Now it's time to move into something a little bit more concrete, if you will. Natural laws, proven through years of experiments and observation. You can think of these laws as puzzle pieces that help us make sense of the big ideas that we've been exploring together. Take hypnosis, for example. It's no longer up for debate. It's widely accepted as a scientific fact, so much so that in certain parts of the world, there's entire medical schools that have been built around it, and in some countries, its use is even regulated. Today, we're not asking whether hypnosis is real. That's old news. The real question is, what can we learn from it? And here's the key takeaway. Understanding the principles behind hypnosis gives us tangible, real-world evidence that supports our metaphysical theories. These aren't just lofty ideas, floating around in the ether. They're grounded in fact, and with this knowledge comes responsibility. Because once you know how the mind truly works, you're ethically bound to use that wisdom wisely for yourself and in alignment with God's greater design. This understanding, it calls for a deeper commitment to the conscious and responsible use of the power that we hold. One of the big revelations that hypnotism has brought to light is the dual nature of the human mind. Now, there's been a lot of debate about whether this duality means we actually have two separate minds, or if it's just, one mind working in different ways. But honestly, this feels like one of those arguments where people are just splitting hairs. At the end of the day, we're still talking about a single person with one identity. Whether you think of it as two minds with different jobs or as one mind with multiple functions, the result is really the same. We're one individual, with different ways of thinking, and how we visualize that process, it's just a matter of preference. This duality, right, reflects the greater duality of our existence in many ways, the tangible world we experience each and every day, and the unseen spiritual forces shaping it. So for simplicity, let's stick with the idea of two minds, an outer and an inner. The outer mind, that handles the day-to-day stuff. We'll call that the objective mind. And then the inner mind, which is deeper and more powerful, is the subjective mind. These terms, they're going to help us keep things straight as we move forward. Through a series of, careful experiments conducted by some seriously brilliant minds, we've uncovered key differences between the subjective and objective minds. Let me break it down. The subjective mind can only reason deductively, while the objective mind, can do both inductive and deductive reasoning. What's the difference, you may ask? Well, deductive reasoning is like solving a math problem. If you assume the first two steps are right, you can logically figure out the third, but it doesn't tell you whether or not those initial steps were correct. Inductive reasoning helps us figure that out by comparing real-world examples, to identify patterns. The two types of reasoning, they really work together like this. First, you use inductive reasoning, and you use inductive reasoning to gather information and, develop a general principle. Then you use deductive reasoning to see how that principle would, play out in specific situations. Deductive reasoning assumes the principle is true and works out the consequences, while inductive reasoning tests whether the principle is valid in the first place. Here's where things get interesting. The subjective mind only uses deductive reasoning. Experiments with hypnosis have actually shown that it accepts any suggestion without questioning it, working out every detail down to the smallest consequence. It doesn't ask whether the idea is true, it just runs with it. And this means that while the subjective mind is incredibly powerful, it is also vulnerable to suggestion, which brings a moral obligation to guard the thoughts and beliefs that we choose to internalize, because the subjective mind accepts what it's told. It's entirely under the control of the objective mind. Whatever the objective mind impresses upon it, the subjective mind carries out with precision, like the most dedicated assistant you've ever seen. But here's where things get pretty fascinating. The objective mind of another person can plant ideas in your subjective mind just as easily, and you have to be aware of this. That's how hypnosis works. It's also how phenomena like distant healing or even telepathy are said to occur. Under the direction of a skilled hypnotist, a person can temporarily believe they are someone else, acting out the role with incredible accuracy, whether it's a swimmer battling waves or a soldier in a battle. And it doesn't stop there. Some hypnotic practitioners of old believe that the subjective mind has abilities beyond the physical senses. Things like thought reading and maybe even telepathy, hinting that we have transcendental powers laying dormant, just waiting to be consciously developed and controlled. Now, obviously, the verdict's out on that, but this opens a vast door to the untapped potential within us. But it also raises the question, are we consciously choosing what influences our inner mind, or are we allowing external forces to shape our destiny? One critical thing to remember is control over the subjective mind should always be ours, not handed over to anyone else. I mean, imagine if you were driving a luxury car or a supercar, right? You wouldn't just want to hand over the keys to anyone. But perhaps the most astonishing discovery from hypnosis is that the subjective mind is the builder of the body. Some early hypnotic practitioners observed that patients in hypnotic states could sometimes diagnose their own illnesses and suggest the remedies that they needed, showing knowledge that seemed to surpass even the most skilled physicians at the time. And in certain cases, they believe the subjective mind could actually bypass the need for medicine entirely, leading to healing through the operator's suggestion of perfect health. While modern science might contest these claims, it's also hard to dismiss the numerous experiments and documented cases of old. Of course, there's an undeniable physical component to health, what you eat, how you care for your body, but it should go without saying, today and through this series, we're not interested in that. We're focusing on the often overlooked mental aspect of our well-being. Go watch Andrew Huberman if you want to focus on physicality. From this, we can learn two critical things. First is that the subjective mind is impersonal, and second, it's the creative force behind the body. Its impersonality is evident from how easily it adopts any personality the hypnotist suggests. Whatever the objective mind believes, the subjective mind accepts and builds on it. This leads us to a profound truth. Our bodies are shaped by the sum of our beliefs. If we believe we're vulnerable to things outside of our control, like germs or stress, the subjective mind will manifest that in our physical state. It doesn't question, right? It simply follows orders. And if we believe certain medicines are the only way to heal, that belief is naturally going to shape the foundation of medicine itself. In modern times, we often refer to this as placebo effect. And while medicine can be obviously helpful and sometimes essential, the real limitation is in believing it's the only path to healing. And here lies another profound responsibility. We must carefully choose the beliefs that we allow to shape us as individuals, for they are the architects of our health and reality. What would change, if you begun to consciously choose the beliefs that align with the wholeness and health rather than fear and limitation? Think about it. Now, if we understand that the subjective mind builds the body and that nothing affects the body unless it's filtered through the subjective mind first, then we have a real game changer. The key is to impress upon the subjective mind that it's a source of perpetual life, constantly renewing the body with health and strength. This can happen without external influence, except for the desires we plant in our subjective mind through our thoughts. And this realization gives us not just power, but a divine responsibility to maintain clarity and alignment in our thoughts. When you truly grasp it, you'll see that creating a healthy body is just as natural as creating an unhealthy one. The difference lies simply in our focus and our consciousness. The entire process, it hinges on believing in your own inner power, the power of life that flows through you. Once this belief takes root, a healthy body naturally follows. This is why it's crucial to anchor your mind in sound, reasonable principles. Mental science provides that foundation, allowing you to fully embrace your ability to shape your health and well-being. In aligning our thoughts with the truth of our divine potential, we step into our role as co-creators, actively participating in our health in harmony with the divine laws God has already set in motion. As Scripture reminds us, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? Corinthians 6:19. Caring for your body, mind, and spirit isn't just about well-being. It's about honoring the sacred gift you've been entrusted with. In today's lesson, we've laid the groundwork, but Recognize that the real transformation comes when you internalize this truth and make it a part of your daily life. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to dive even deeper into the mastery of mental science, you know what to do. Go to betterthought.com and subscribe to my newsletter. Not only will you find bonus material to complement what you just learned, but you'll be notified as soon as the next video in the series is released. So go to betterthought.com now and subscribe so we can continue this journey together. Until next time, Godspeed.